If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is
Ivy.
So I have an update on my Sky Dragons. If you're all curious, it's moved now. Actually, I guess I don't have an update on the Sky Dragons itself, but it's now turned into me researching the loud booms that everybody have been hearing, as far as I know, across the United States. I don't know, if it's something weird. Of course, a lot of people are calling them fireworks. People are saying they hear these loud booms at night, all hours of the night, but not just at night. Some people are hearing them in the morning. And, this has been going on now for the past, couple of months. And I could see the pandemic, everybody being at home, everybody's bored. What are you going to do? You're going to blow shit up at home, right? But this has been something that I know has been going on here in our town for years. Like, this has been going on for years, and not just in summer when it's 4th of July or whatever. It happens in the middle of winter. It's been happening in a specific neighborhood for a very long time, and the cops don't really, the cops get called, they don't really have any answers for what it is, and it just continues to happen. Now, maybe they've ramped up because maybe a lot more people are doing the fireworks thing, but I don't know. It's all just very strange.
Yeah, I've heard them. When you're outside, it sounds like a gunshot.
Right, and that's another thing, is that these aren't just like bottle rockets and firecrackers. These are booms that are waking people up in the middle of the night. They're shaking the houses. Like, they're very loud. They're crazy loud.
Squirrels are at an all-time high right now.
Is that a fact?
I don't know.
Sure.
Blowing up all the Transformers. Poor baby.
Because it's very much like that. It's very bizarre. I've heard tales. So we had an incident. We had two different incidences where we had a car bomb and at Dots Market. You know Dots. Dots is like a local grocery. Well, there's two stores, but there's it's a local. But they had a car bomb there. And all the news really said was that the police were there and they had found a car bomb or whatever, and that was it. They never explained who it was, or there was no arrest. So yeah, that was a weird incident. It just kind of, like I said, it got reported on the news once, and then nobody ever talked about it again or explained it. But so I've heard rumors that these could be, and I've heard from some pretty reputable people, I believe, that these could be people experimenting with making explosives or, making bombs, and they're just kind of setting them off in the neighborhoods to test what they've made or whatever. I don't know. But I've been looking more into it because that's kind of the hot topic right now and everybody's talking about it. So, I don't know. It's another new conspiracy. So, that's what I've been doing. And then I saw something today, and I was curious. I really wanted to get your opinion about it, actually. So it was, and it's, I'm probably gonna fuck it up. It's not completely accurate, but I saw a tweet. I follow this, numerologist, and, but she'll tweet out other stuff that involve the planets and things like that. And she had said something about Venus. I think it was about Venus. Your Venus placement determines such and such about you. But it was if you're a woman, it determines how you seduce men or something like that. And if you're a man, it determines how you're what type of women you're attracted to. So I was thinking, I was like, well, gosh, that's kind of transphobic, isn't it? Because what if you're trans? Then what? Do you go by your birth, what you were born as, or is that transphobic?
Most of it's just energy, but people just say male and female, but it's really just more about masculine and feminine.
But this one said, if you're born female, if you're born male. So it's what is that?
I don't know. I just
how would you read it as a
for
trans
me,
person?
I'd read
you would read the feminine.
woman, yeah.
Well, that's what I figured. It would just be whatever, however you identify, because that would make sense. That would play with your energies better. But I don't know. It was weird. So I didn't know if that was considered, transphobic or not for it to have that type of influence, or what that means, to somebody that's trans. But then again, I guess the best way to be able to know which one you identify with is, I guess if you were trans, you could read it and then you could see if it identifies with your masculine or your feminine side.
Well, I mean, you're a cis woman. You identify as a woman, so it's like the same thing.
Why wouldn't I read as a woman?
Yeah, so if you were on a little bit more on the masculine side, you could read the male version. Like if you not necessarily like a tomboy, but like if you just felt like you embodied masculine energy more, which sometimes, it's not always about this or that. You might read the male side and it could speak to you and you not identify as male or masculine or anything like that, and it's just that period of your life.
Yeah, because I'm very aware of like my masculine traits, my feminine and my masculine traits. Typically being a very, a very alpha woman. You get those masculine traits, and so I guess that's true. That you could read for either one. I mean, I didn't look too much into it. Obviously, I had just seen it, and I was curious as to what somebody that is trans would have to say about something like that. That would, what that would mean for you, because I can't, like you said, I'm a cis woman, so I can't identify. You know what I mean?
Well, you identify whether you're cis or not. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I guess what I mean is I wouldn't be able to look at it through your perspective. So I was curious. We should run a segment. Ask a trans.
Yeah.
Those trans. And their kooky answers to stuff. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it cracks me up when people say stuff like that. Like, guys, like, I've never been with a trans. Like, oh, I've never been with a transmission either.
Right. Trans or tranny, and it's like, meaning, yeah, I've never been with a transmission.
Well, some people take offense to tranny. I'm not one of them, but it also depends on the context.
It is it is it's a derogatory term. I could see it being a derogatory term for sure. Yeah. And, like you said, the context, it's like...
Well, odds are, if there is a context that it can be taken negatively, you probably just shouldn't use that word anyway.
Yeah. Right. So it's
when it comes to a person. Now, like, you could say shit and it still mean poo. But, that's not
that's not the same thing.
Directly, like, demean somebody.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I can't think of a way that you would use tranny, meaning, someone that's transgender, in a way that wouldn't be directly...
That doesn't come off offensive.
Right.
Like, are you a tranny?
Right. Are you a tranny? Yeah.
Okay. Do you know a tranny?
Yeah, that's true.
There's a stigma definitely attached to it.
Right. So it's like, how could you... say that without being offensive. But I mean, I guess that's true too when you have when you have people that are transgender that are passing, and but it's kind of like, I guess it's like asking a fat woman if she's pregnant. You don't just, it's just not, it's rude. You don't just. So I mean, how would you, other than that, I mean, otherwise when you're talking about somebody and then you're like, oh yeah, I'm, my friend Ivy, she's a tranny, and then, if I said that, then that would be like, that would be, what's the word I'm looking for? Not dehumanizing, but no, that would be, if I did that, it would be outing you, and that's not, like, that's another weird thing that people don't get. And, like, the world of, like, consent and things like that. And so,
yeah, like, it's not anybody else's story to share.
Right, exactly. And so it's like, that's not okay. Yeah. That's not considered okay because you don't, it's not up to you.
But there's also, like, when it comes to something like that, it makes sense because that's a person's identity.
Yeah.
But there is also, like, the same thing as, like, deal guys that are, like, you know, just ashamed of who they are, essentially.
Yeah.
Because that's all it is.
Yeah.
Like, if you weren't ashamed, you'd be able to come forward. You know, not that you have to be outright like, oh, I'm here and I'm queer. You know, it doesn't have to be like that.
to be like that, right. Well, right, and if it's like, if I was like warning people about you, like if I felt the need to warn people ahead of time that you were transgender when bringing you around anybody, then it's like, then obviously, like in my head, you know, whether it was intentional or not, then that's being I'd be transphobic.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, as if there was something wrong with that, to be like, oh, you know,
yeah,
here's a warning, you know,
right.
about this person.
Stay on your best behavior.
You know, so it's like, what does that say about the company I keep, you know, if I have
right.
to warn them?
Exactly.
So, you know,
that's another thing that comes with it, too.
Yeah.
It's like people aren't necessarily transphobic themselves, but when it comes to like other people,
certain behaviors,
they essentially condone it by doing stuff like that. Like somebody that says that may not have anything against trans people or anything like that, but it's still transphobic because it's like,
well, it's
like
a
ripple effect.
It's like the people that say, you know, all lives matter.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people that do say all lives matter with the best intention. But by them saying that,
it's invalidating.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's racist. You know, whether you have the best intention or not, it's still racist. So it's just, you know, recognizing those small behaviors in us as people and those little things that we can change, because it's like, even though, again, they're doing it because they're not meaning to be racist, they're actually trying to go out of their way to not be racist, but they're trying too hard.
Right.
Y'all are trying too hard out there. So
gotta keep the white folks safe, you know. Can't let them feel like they aren't cared for because you say Black Lives Matter.
Exactly. You know, I mean, there are people that are saying it now because they know and they're just doing it to be dickheads. But, you know, initially, especially when the Black Lives Matter movement started happening before this, you know, people really didn't get it. And they said it with the best intent, you know, and I can tell you that because I know I was one of those people and I didn't understand it. And so, you know, I have been able to grow and evolve from that and be like, oh shit, wow, this whole time, you know, it's like if I was walking around saying banana and banana happened to be a racial slur, but I didn't know. I just thought, you know, it was the fruit or something, you know, I don't know. And I just walked around and saying it, you know. You can change that. You can recognize and be like, oh, that's wrong. Okay, well, let me fix it. Like it's okay to grow, guys. You're allowed. There's nothing wrong with growth. But I don't know. So, you know, that's what's been going on this past week here. And then on my birthday's in a week from today. It's next Tuesday. So it's going to be my last year in my 20s. So I still get to remain, you know, not 30 yet.
But pretty much.
But shh, I'm still in my 20s. That's where it is now. Somebody asked me how old I am. I'm in my 20s.
Yeah.
I'm in my 20s still.
Honestly, I like being 30.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Why? What do you like about your 30s?
I don't know. I got over that big hump that I was going through.
Okay.
And it's kind of just like...
It's been a relieving time.
Right. And I know myself a lot better than I did before. And everything that was happening... What the fuck?
Cat.
Everything that was happening to me was like, you know, basically just changing my perspective.
Yeah.
It's like a check-in, essentially. Like, all right, well, where are you at, sis?
Yeah.
So I could either continue to dwell on shit or I could move forward from it. But, you know, either way, you're going to learn something about yourself, even if it's not like right away. But it's like those challenges, like being able to overcome them has helped me just be better in general. I don't know. 30 is a weird weird age.
I've heard that. I've heard 20s are hard. I've heard 30s are still hard, just not as hard. But I've heard 40s are great. People love their 40s. People seem to really like being in their 40s. So if I can just make it until then.
Right.
But I've heard that a lot of people have been able to grow a lot, and the 30s really seem to be that. Well, like you said, you get over that big hump. So it's just you get over the worst of it, and then all of a sudden. So apparently this year is going to probably be the hardest year of my entire life. So that's great. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, so you guys still have time to buy me a gift.
Get on it.
But I bring this up not just to be just to talk about myself, even though I love talking about myself. But I bring this up because I'm having a birthday party, and I have a birthday party every year, and I have two major parties in my year, and I might have like some get-togethers and things in between, but my two big parties are I have a birthday party, and then I have a really big Halloween party. And so this year it's been very interesting because I have found myself in a very strange situation where I have I kind of have multiple relationships happening at the moment. And I don't really know who to invite or how to go about doing this, if I should just have them all over, and so...
Girl, invite everybody.
Well, that's what I figure. And then if they start
causing some bullshit...
But I don't want to be disappointed with who I end up with at the end of the night. So it's like... So I don't want to make one of them feel like they're not as important just because I ended up not wanting to spend the night with them and I wanted to spend the night with somebody else. But the reason why I bring this up is because this week's topic, we figured we would talk about sex, sexual dynamics, and relationships. And so in my relationship world, in my love life, I am polyamorous. So I have multiple relationships with different people at any given time. I kind of lean towards being a relationship anarchist, so I don't feel the need to like climb the relationship elevator with somebody. I don't want to do like the moving in and the getting married and things like that. Now, I'm open to the possibility that could happen.
Right, you done it once already.
It's not that I don't know that it wouldn't happen. But in the meantime, while that's not happening, I've got these boyfriends and, even basically a girlfriend now. So, it just keeps growing. And, but some of them, it's kind of ever changing. I mean, it is a revolving door of like who stays and who doesn't or whatever. Right now I still don't really, I've got some pretty consistent people, like this one guy, one of the boyfriends. He, I don't really want to see him anymore. God, I hope he never listens to the podcast. I don't really want to see him anymore, but he's like kind of invited himself to my party. And I guess that's what I mean by like who to invite and what to do, because like even though I've invited him to the party, well, I didn't invite him to the party. He kind of invited himself to the party, and I didn't have the balls enough to end things with him then. And so now he's going to show up to the party. And I'm okay with it, because then, like, the other boyfriend, the kind of somebody that I've seen for a very long time, he's married. And so, and he's married, and he's got kids, and, he does the family thing. I don't know if he's going to show up. I don't know if he's going to be able to. So it's like, as fucked up as it is, like, obviously I want to get laid on my birthday, and all my other people that I have as options, like I want to be able to have a backup plan, and a backup plan for the backup plan. And then my hope is that honestly everybody just gets into a big sex ball and we all just have an orgy. So that's what I want for my birthday. I want an orgy.
For my 29th birthday, I want everybody to come naked.
Everybody. Yes. And that's kind of, my parties are kind of known for that. So that's not really a surprise. That's what we do. Eventually, we all, people come over, and, it's kind of implied throughout the night for different people. If people decide that they don't want to be involved, then they usually end up leaving early, and the people that do want to be involved stay. So that's kind of how it goes. So it is a really, like, the world of polyamory is really weird and confusing. I was talking to another guy. Actually, just yesterday, I was hanging out with another guy, and I was kind of trying to explain my dynamics to him. And it's hard to explain to new people that you're talking to that, you know, you date everybody, but in the long term, you would want to settle down with someone. I do feel like I do want to have a type of primary partner.
A nesting partner.
Yeah, I do. You know, eventually. But, you know, I'm willing to wait for the right person. I don't want to just jump in with anybody and do that. All the people that I'm seeing right now, I don't see myself doing that with. And so, you know, even though...
Is that just right now? Or do you think that could change?
Any of those people, if it could turn into something?
Yeah.
I think that's just right now. Well, I'm working on adding another boyfriend to the list, and I don't know. I think, you know, I'm open to that possibility that it could be more, but you know, he could be one that I'd ride the elevator with, but the ones I'm seeing right now, like I said, one's married. You know, the other one I don't like very much. The other one we kind of have more of a, like, we have a very romantic relationship, but we don't sleep together. And so, but that might be normal because he is almost asexual. And so, you know, but because of that, we're not compatible. And so I think for a nesting partner, that wouldn't work for me. Right. So it's like, you know, and that sucks, but, you know, I can't change how I am. So, you know, but I was in, you know, I'm sure plenty of people know, I was in a relationship, you know, recently, and I was monogamous during that relationship. And at the time, you know, I was happy. I was happy having my one partner. I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. I didn't have the need to go be with anybody else. However, you know, when you get in these relationships, you have that new relationship energy. And I don't know if that's something that would continue. I don't know if I would want to just be with one person for the rest of my life. Like, I don't know if that's something that I'll ever want to do. And so, like I said, as much as I can have a nesting partner, I don't know if I could just be with one person, because I like the freedom. I like the weird world of one-night stands and random sex, and, you know, that's fun for me. Group sex is my favorite sex. I would much rather have group sex than any other sex. So obviously, you know, one of those days, if I was expected to remain monogamous with that, you know, with anybody, I would end up not being happy because I'd be missing out on those parts of myself, you know. So I'd have to be with somebody that was open to the idea of being open. But I get into these relationships with people, and they assume that they can change me. They can change my mind, and all of a sudden I'll want to be monogamous just with them forever. And that's not the way it works. So it's not going to be ever how it works for me, and that's just the way it is. Right. And I've just accepted that part of myself, I guess.
Well, and some people, they can do monogamous and they can do polyamorous. So it's like, you know, you can't just assume that somebody that's poly is willing to have one partner and be monogamous.
Right.
If that's not what they want or they need.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Well, right. And it's like, not to mention, like, I just have so many different like sexual dynamics that I prefer, and it's strange because, like, you know, getting on the topic of sex, I personally have a daddy complex, but I can only have one daddy. I can't have multiple daddies because there's just daddy. It's, you know, in my mind, that's how it works. And then everybody else, you know, they're beneath me. They don't deserve to be daddy. You know, they're trash, not, you know, just in a sexual way. Then I dominate them. And so, you know, probably about 90% of my sexual relationships that I have with people, I'm the alpha in, because, like I said, daddy is like a special place. And so, so if I got into it, but I like both. I like having both. So, yeah, I mean, so for me, it's like, I can't have a daddy and then dominate daddy. It doesn't work that way. So I don't feel like I would get the most out of it, you know, sexually. And so it's like I would have to have those two separate partners to have those separate things. And, like, you know, so that's basically what it is. Now, when I'm looking, like, if I met somebody great tomorrow and I'm just like, oh, this person's wonderful, then I would probably I would stop pursuing other relationships. I would probably weed out the current relationships that I have and just kind of get rid of the ones that are unnecessary, and basically be monogamous with that person while we're still going through the stages of getting to know each other, because I know that I can't put out enough work because what if I meet that person great, but I'm still open to the possibility of meeting more people, and then I meet another person that's equally as great. I don't feel like I have enough energy in me to invest into two of those relationships at one time. So, I don't know. So it's like, for me, it would make sense to kind of have a period of time where my dating has slowed down and I'm just focused on the one relationship. And, because that's the thing with polyamory. For me, it's not just about sex. It can be, but it's not. It is about, I would prefer to have multiple relationships. I like that. My dream would be to have a big old polycule, and we all just live in a house together, and we're all in love, and it's wonderful. That's what I
commune.
Yes, it's just all of us together. And they're called polycules, and some people have them, and some people don't. But I'm more, they call it kitchen table poly. Like, I want the open relationships. Like, I want, like, my nesting partner to know who I'm sleeping with. Maybe they sleep together sometimes too. Maybe we all sleep together. Like, I want it to be very open. But there are different people in the poly community. Like, there's, don't ask, don't tell, where it's like you just pretend that your other partner doesn't exist at all, and like, but while you're on dates with the one, and it's weird. So, I don't know. That's how I do things, I guess. What do you do? Do you identify as any type of? Are you a monogamous, or? Do you have identity?
I've never been in a position where I have wanted to date more than one person at one time, and that's not necessarily because I only want to date one person or that I want to date multiple people. It's just kind of how it is.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I also haven't really wanted to date for a long time because I had to get my shit together. And,
yeah. I did that, yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have somebody that you can work with and, like, build with and be better with,
But you can also trauma bond very easly with that person, too. And then on top of that, then it is, relationships are work. They're not going to be, great and wonderful all the time. They take work, they take energy, they take time. And when you're trying to work on yourself, I think that's a great way to go. Too many people don't do that. Mm-hmm. Too many people feel like they need another person to fix them. And it's like, that's not how it works. If you're looking for somebody to save you, you need to look in the mirror, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And that's a problem. And that leads to this toxic bullshit behavior in relationships. Like, I don't do that. I guess that's my big thing. Like, I don't do jealousy. I'm not jealous at all, because, come on, have you seen me? I don't have a reason. I have no competition with anybody. I don't, like, see a woman and I'm like, and I get offended because she's hotter than me or whatever. Like, I'll never be out with, like, who I'm with, like, whoever I'm dating, and, like, they're talking about, oh, that girl's so hot, and I'm like, oh, you think she's hot? Oh, no, dude, I'm gonna be right there, like, yeah, she really is very hot. We should try to take her home today. That's just not. But a lot of people get those behaviors because they don't work really on themselves and through the shit that they need to work through. Because it's like, why do you have those insecurities? Like, what is it about yourself that you're feeling insecure about that makes you act out, in a crazy way, or, something like that. So I think it's smart. I think, I did that for a couple of years. I did it for probably about a good 3 years. I took my time away from dating, and I've only, in the last 7 years after, me and my husband split up, I hadn't been in, like, a relationship, like a real relationship, so there, of course I've had boyfriends and girlfriends and things like that, but nothing that I wanted to build with somebody else.
Right.
And
well, I was seeing people, I just wasn't dating people, that's kind of how I personally like to do it. Like, I just want to see somebody, hang out with somebody, and just see kind of, like, how it is.
Yeah.
And if it's not right, it's not right, but we can still kick it. We can still, get it on, whatever we're doing.
Yeah, mine's, like, a weird thing, because I don't really have, like, romantic feelings about people. Like, I don't feel like the mushy-gushy butterflies and all that. Like, I don't feel that way about people. I just feel Like, but I do have like a sexual attraction, and I do, you know, in a weird way, love these people, but not in the same way that like a husband and wife would traditionally talk about loving somebody. Like, I just don't have that. And so it's possible. My last relationship taught me that it was possible for me to feel that way about somebody, because for 7 years I thought I was just broken. I'm like, I'm never gonna feel that way, I guess, because I haven't yet. But I don't know, apparently for me it's just I'm very picky in who, like, I decide to, you know, to give that much of myself to somebody. Like, it's, you know, totally different. And so I mean, that keeps me open to the possibilities of everything. I don't want to shut myself off. But typically, like, if I don't initially, like, for me, I feel, you know, I know, like, with those feelings, I felt them immediately. You know, it was right away I knew. So I don't see the potential of anybody that I'm seeing right now growing into something like that, because it just hasn't happened yet.
Right.
It could, you know, I'm not totally closed off to the idea that it could, but it hasn't. So, so I don't know, you know, but I'm having fun, you know, and I'm enjoying myself, and it's not like I don't, you know, they're not just sex. You know, I can call up, you know, I guess I shouldn't name names, but I can call up, you know, so-and-so for something, and they'll do it, you know, and then they can call me for things, and I'll do it, you know. It's, you know, there's definitely a type of relationship there. It's just not a traditional, as other people would see it, you know, boyfriend-girlfriend relationship or girlfriend-girlfriend relationship, because we're not escalating things beyond what they already are. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And so, you know, that's kind of what it is. And like I said, I was, you know, talking to somebody yesterday, and he wanted to take me out on a date, and he's like, you know, but he's like, you know, I don't want anybody to be upset or anything like that, but they all know that this is what I do. Like, I'm very open about it. I'm not trying to hide it from anybody. And so, you know, I feel like they're very aware. Even, you know, the relationship that I had gotten out of, you know, the big relationship, you know, initially when we first got together, it was open because he knew that's what I do, and he just was on a don't ask, don't tell policy. He didn't want to know about it. Okay, great. You know, but then eventually, you know, I had made the decision to go ahead and close it. But yeah, so I mean, everybody knows about each other. It's not like anybody's a secret, and it's not like they don't know, but like I said, they definitely do think that eventually they'll change me somehow. You know. But the one guy, he, you know, he's got a very different problem than me. And, but it's also kind of the same problem. But his problem is that, like, whereas I still act out sexually. Because for me, sex and relationships aren't the same thing. Like, sex and love don't go hand in hand. Like, sex and emotion aren't a thing. I don't feel emotionally at all when I have sex. But I'm also a sex addict, guys, in case you didn't know. I have sex addiction. I've been to counseling for it, and so you know, for me, when I have sex with someone, it's completely unemotional. And but then, like, for, you know, my one guy, when he has sex with somebody, it's all emotions. He can only have sex. He can only perform if there's an emotional connection there. And so, you know, but he's having a hard time having that emotional connection with people. So therefore, like I said, we both have the same issue, because I don't have that emotional connection with people. I don't have those romantic feelings. I can't find a nesting partner. I can't find a primary. So, and, you know, he's kind of got the same things, except he doesn't have all the, I have all the sex and he doesn't have any of the sex. So, and we don't sleep together. You know, and that's more, I think that's more my choice. I think we could, and I think he could perform because he's got the emotional connection, but I can't give him emotion in return during sex. And so that's an issue, you know, and that's not fair to him. So I don't do that. You know, I won't indulge in that, because I'm not trying to hurt people's feelings on purpose or anything. That's why I'm open about, you know, what I do. So, you know, that's my take on it all. And then the kink world just adds a whole different element to all of it. So, you know, it's just a different thing when you have a preference for that kind of stuff. So, I don't know. Everybody's got something. I'm definitely convinced that everybody's got something that they are into, even if they don't realize that it's kink. They definitely do get into it. Like I said, I know I definitely I have a thing for daddy, and but I also do like being alpha. But then actually most of the sex that I have is pretty neutral as far as like power struggles go. Sometimes I'll get into a power struggle with somebody, and it's weird because there's a big difference between a daddy and a dom. I don't want a dom. I don't want one. I want a daddy. And so
and there's a difference between a daddy, a dom, and a daddy dom.
Yeah, exactly. Dom Daddy Dom. That's the new hit single. There is, and a lot of people don't know that, and they don't know what the differences are. And so I guess maybe they'll try to please me because they're trying to be daddy, but then they're just being a dom, and I'm like, this isn't the same thing. You need to stop it. And then I just get, I don't know, then I get angry and I get alpha, and then we're both just kind of going at each other, and then it just gets weird, and I don't know, it's a strange thing. But then on top of that, being an alpha female, we tend to we're desirable somehow. I mean, people really want us a lot because I guess it's rare. I don't know if it's a rare thing and they just don't find it. I don't know if it's just...
Well, let's be honest. Most women that do it aren't generally very good at it in the way that true. Most people want it. Mm-hmm. Now, there are some that are like, that's going to be either way, not just women. It's men, too. They think that they're...
That do the doming, yeah.
Right. It's just like... It's hard to find a good quality dom, like, in
just
general.
Just in general, yeah. I could see that. That's probably true, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a guy, so obviously I'm not a male dom, so I can't relate to that, but I guess that's true. But I guess most women that I hear talk about their sex lives, I'd say most of them talk about how, they want to get fucked and they want to get treated like a whore, and, they want to have, I don't know, they want to be dominated. And so, it's like, I guess when you have a woman that hits the scene and we're like, oh, excuse me, you don't own shit around here.
Right.
Then it gets different.
Well, then there's people like me where I'm like a dom in the streets, but a sub in the sheets, girl.
Okay, yeah.
They get kind of disappointed. But I mean, I'm also, like, I can do both.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just depends on the person, on how you want to approach it. But
I mean, I can switch, definitely. I can switch between sub and dom in a regular relationship. But I can't do that.
I don't like it. I mean,
I can. I can, but, like, I can't do that. Like, just with one person, like, I can switch with the one person, but I can't do, like I said, if I had daddy, you can't do that with daddy. It's not the way it works. Like, that breaks the whole illusion of the kink, Right. So it doesn't really make any sense. But I was actually talking to somebody, and I've kind of, like, when I was turning into, like, a porn chat, I've kind of, like, recently relinquished some control to a female, and I like it. I like it more than I thought that I would like it, especially because typically with this particular person, when we're around each other, we're usually around other people too. So it's like, so then like the other people kind of get involved with it, and she kind of is like the instructor and kind of tells us what to do, and it's pretty hot. It's pretty hot. It's pretty cool. I was surprised by it. Most women that I've ever slept with have just been a neutral. There's been no, sub or dom type of situation. It's just been kind of a mutual whatever. But this is like this is the first time I've had a female dom, and I'm like, oh, okay, and I enjoy it. So I think it's fun. But then again, I don't know if I would like it if we weren't open and like, having other people get involved and stuff like that. I think I would be like, bitch, shut up.
Know your place. Get in the fucking kitchen.
Oh, right. Come on.
Just
Go make me a
kidding.
sandwich. But
Is
no,
there
it's-
crust on my sandwich? The fuck is wrong with you?
But no, you know, so like I said, usually it's a neutral setting. This time it's not, so it's different. You know, it's pretty cool. Like I said, it's a new thing, and you know, for me, who has slept with only everybody, I don't get to have new things very often, so I've already done it, you know. So, but I guess not. I guess I'm still learning. But yeah, I kind of like that. And then, like I said, with all the other guys, it's kind of, you know, right now, aside from the girl, all my other people, they aren't, well, the one I don't really like really tries, and you're gonna know who it is once I say it, really tries to be a dom, and he's really not good at it. And you know, and I fucked up by, you know, well, you know, telling him he was my boyfriend, and
Oh!
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, and it sucks because he's, you know, down to do a lot of kinky shit, but it's like, you can't dominate me. Like, it's just,
You're weak.
right. It's like, you can't,
Get the fuck off me.
you can't do it legitimately. Like, yes, I could pretend that you are, but we all know that you're not. You know, now, granted, in a sub-dom relationship, that is one thing that a lot of people don't really seem to understand, is that the sub does, in fact, have all of the control. Because they can shut that shit down immediately. And a good dom will shut it down when it's shut down. You know, but this is different. Again, I have to pretend that that he's doming me, and he's not. So
Oh, you poor unfortunate
he
soul.
tries, and he's cute. But yeah, so I mean, for me and him, there's kind of a power struggle there, because, you know, it's just not gonna happen. But yeah, so unfortunately he'll be at my party trying to dom me, and he's gonna have the likes of, you know, other people that are gonna be like, what?
Boy.
Right.
Sit down.
So, you know, I'm not really sure what's gonna happen yet, because I don't know exactly who is coming. And then that's like, well, and then that's another thing. So, like, okay, you know, but they don't know. I've been hanging out with this girl, okay, and I know her because it is one of my friends' ex-wives, okay. So I've been hanging out with her, and I've also kind of reconnected with that friend again recently, and he's in a relationship with somebody, and I won't get into the full story, but you know, him and I have known each other for a very, very long time. We've never slept together. Every time we've tried to date, I don't really know what happens. Something happens, and then we don't end up dating. Well, I ended up hanging out with his ex-wife, and she has begged me to sleep with her husband. She really wants me to sleep with her husband. And dude, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna fucking do it. It's, you know what? This has been a long time coming. We just gotta do it, and, you know, get it over with, and probably do it some more. Because, you know, well, he really likes me, and so, you know, he'll be back. He's not going anywhere. So, but like at the same time, the ex-wife, every time I see her, she wants to sleep with me too. And so I'm like, okay, I can't, it's the dynamic of the relationship, that their relationship in general has not ever been inherently healthy. So I don't feel comfortable sleeping with both of them. You know, at least not without like sitting down and talking to both of them about it and getting approval. But yeah, she wants to sleep with me too, and I'm not totally against it. But, you know, I want to sleep with her husband. So I've got my party coming up, and she is dating one of my really close friends. Well, I mean, technically, basically, the most boyfriendest boyfriend that I have. And she's dating him, and he's gonna be at the party. So I don't know if he's going to bring her, but I've invited her ex-husband to the party in hopes that, you know, we'll finally get to sleep together. That's who I'm rooting for the night. That's my number one. Again, number one is everybody. Number two is him. So so, you know, I don't know. I'm not sure, you know, what's going to happen then when she's involved. I mean, I guess then I get, you know, everybody, but I don't know if he's interested in sleeping with her or not. We haven't talked about it. So it's just a weird, it's just a weird situation. But thankfully, you never get bored, you know, in that kind of situation, because, you know, once I'm like, oh, I've been sleeping with this person for a while, I'm getting kind of used to it. I just call somebody else, and you know, throughout the week you see different ones. And, yeah, I mean, you know, whatever. It just is what it is. Especially being an adult and stuff like that. It's, you know, we're all busy. We all have things going on, so we can't always all see each other. So, but there usually is always somebody to see. So that's pretty cool, I guess. I don't know. It is a weird thing. That's why we're talking about it here. Because I have mentioned, like, I've said stuff, like, on my Twitter and things like that, and I've, like, mentioned, like, you know, boyfriends or something, you know, but then I come off as, you know, very single, and it's like, when people ask me if I'm single, you know, how do I answer that question? Because it's like...
Just say you're available.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Right, because it's like, I'm not single, but, like...
It's like, I'm available.
You know.
What day works for you?
Yeah, for the most part. It's a weird thing to answer. So it's like, you know.
It's like, first I have to ask you, do you want your own designated day?
Right.
If so,
I've got this day and this day over right now.
3 blows would you like to pay?
Yes. Yes, that
Boy.
is how it is. That's how it should be. Yeah, so yeah, it is a weird, it can be a weird thing. And then, like, my family, I'm not really, like, out to my family about it, which is another weird thing. I'm not, like, hiding things on purpose. And I guess when I talk about my family, I'm only talking about my mom and my sister. But, we don't talk about it. I don't talk to them about it. You know, nobody ever really comes over. But my mom did mention the one day my car window broke. And so, so my car window went down, it wouldn't roll back up, and it was actually, like, getting ready to storm outside, and it was just a fucking shit show. So I called one boyfriend, and he was busy, so I called another boyfriend, and he was also busy, and, my mom, I was at her house, and we were just putting, like, garbage bags over the window, so it would at least stay dry in the car while it rained, and my mom's like, don't you have all these men that you can call? I was like, I did already. Men are trash.
I love your mom.
So I think she knows, you know, I think she gets it. We just don't talk about it. And, you know, she's kind of a similar person. She doesn't really want to be in a relationship with somebody. She just wants to be with herself. She doesn't want to worry about another person. And I guess for the most part, that is how I feel. I don't want to have to worry about another person. If I'm going to, like, move in with somebody, like, that's another thing. Like, I don't want to have to worry about, like, melding households and not being able to, like, decorate my spaces how I want to and things like that. So, I mean, if I moved in with somebody, I would have to find a fucking weirdo.
See, if I'm moving in with anybody I'm in a relationship with, you can call it selfish, you can call it whatever the fuck you want. But, bitch, I'm decorating.
Yeah. But if you're with somebody that has similar enough taste to you, it's not going to be an issue anyway.
I don't give a fuck if they got similar taste or not.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If I find somebody, it would have to be somebody that I would be... it would just have to be the perfect somebody. And that's that. I mean, that's where it's at. And so, you know, I'm not willing to compromise parts of myself just to live with another person, because that's not worth it to me, you know. Right. So it's like, I wouldn't.
Well, it's like, if you live with me, you're gonna have to be okay with all kinds of tree branches and shit coming home, or, you know, just me just finding little knickknacks.
Yeah.
But they all have their place. It's not like, and it doesn't look like, oh, here's my curio cabinet of blah blah blah.
But you're decorating game.
I know what I'm doing. It looks nice.
You should have your own show on TV. Decorating with ivy.
See, that's what I need to go to school for.
Interior design.
Yeah, but
I
there's
think it
not
would be-
really a market for it. So, I mean, there is, but there isn't.
Yeah.
It's usually people that have a vision, and I like people that don't have a vision, but they just like, I like these things. I'm like, okay.
Well, these
Or
things
it's
don't
like,
go together, sis.
no. That's not gonna work.
See, my decorating's weird, and it's so slow, and it's like, I have a vision, but it's like I don't have the pieces to put it together
Right.
yet.
Well,
And
sometimes
so,
that's the best part is like
it's
the
fun
long
for
journey,
me,
the long
yeah.
haul.
Because I notice, like, when I finish, because my bathroom is the only room in my house that is completely finished, and when my bathroom was finished,
Well, you had you were dead set on what you wanted to do with your bathroom.
I didn't know what I wanted to do with my bathroom. I knew. Well, the whole house really, and I still know what I want to do. It was easier to do the small bathroom than it has been to do like the whole living room and the whole kitchen and the whole bedroom. So, but the bathroom, yeah, I finished it. But I was kind of sad, and even like today, I was at a thrift store today, and I saw something that would have been like perfect in my bathroom, but like there's literally nowhere to put it. And I'm
Pick
like,
it up anyway.
bitch, it was big.
Girl, swap it for something.
Yeah, but
And
I
then
don't
you
know
can
what I
always
wanna
swap it back.
Yeah, but there's nowhere I could put it.
Girl,
It wouldn't fit anywhere.
I had a whole ass winter bed and a summer bed. A winter
That's
coffee
right,
table
that's right.
and a summer coffee table.
But I don't have a spot to put the things that I'm not using. Because I do
You
that
can
already.
find a spot.
Well, right now I haven't been doing it,
You
but
got this whole ass apartment.
usually I don't have enough space for shit as it is, bitch. Between all my Halloween decorations and my fucking Christmas decorations. I have 2 Christmas trees. I have a 2-bedroom apartment.
Well, first you can get rid of the Christmas trees.
No.
Because, girl, who needs one?
No. I want another.
Oh, God. One of those.
It's gonna be Christmas in every room of the
Every
house.
room. I got my one Christmas tree.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I need.
And it's just a little
Yeah.
little Christmas
Just a
tree.
little crochet.
There's nothing wrong with that. Eventually I want to have different like themed trees. I have a fucking Halloween tree. I don't
Now,
think
see,
you've
that
seen it.
I can get behind.
I have a Halloween tree. My sister bought me a Halloween tree for my birthday last year. She did. And
come
decorations and everything. Oh yeah. Oh, bitch, it's all outfitted. It's great. Yeah, it's not big or anything, but it's like 4 foot. And, it's decent.
Big enough.
Yeah, it's decent. But I have a whole Halloween tree even. But I want to have different themed like Christmas trees and stuff in different rooms of my house. But yeah, so my bathroom, once I finished it, now I'm kind of sad that journey's over. So it's like it made me realize that, well, if I end up finishing everything, then it's over. And that makes I don't know. And then it kind of gives me anxiety. But I also like to find, very unique things, and I don't like to just go to home to home and buy some shit. I mean, if I see something, sure, I'll pick it up. It's gotta fit though. But usually, I like to buy things that are very unique. Right now the only pieces of art that I have on my walls are things that people have created, aside from the tapestry that I have for the YouTube channel set. But that's kind of been my thing lately. Is finding
home to
unique
home, you
stuff.
can find some good stuff because it's basically just a big consignment store. So you can find like rare items,
Oh, well,
like
I
my
guess I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know enough to know because.
like my lotus flower lamp.
Yeah.
That's from there.
Okay.
And I got it for $60, and then I've seen it other places like Antique Village in Centerville.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been there?
I have not ever.
Oh,
been
we'll
there.
have to go. It's
Okay.
like my safe space. I go in there. I don't even bring my phone sometimes, and I am a straight up old person. I will be in there for hours, and I will sit on the bench.
I'm just hanging out.
Yep.
I've never even
Because
been
there's just so much to look at.
there. Okay. I mean, I'm definitely down. We should definitely go soon.
But to tie all this into our topic of
Yes.
the podcast,
Yes.
when you're looking for furniture, make sure you can fuck on it.
1000%. You know what? I have this Chase Lounge, okay? Okay?
And it still ain't happened
I
yet.
have never had sex on it. I am so upset that it has not happened. I don't understand why it has not happened. Maybe that's what I want for my birthday. I want to finally have sex on my Chase Lounge that I've had for 3 years. Like, I've had sex with all these fucking people. I've had an actual like grown up building relationship, and we never had sex on it. So I don't.
Shall we move to the Chase Lounge?
Never did. And you know what? You could do so much on that thing. Like, it's got the hump in it and everything. You could do so
girl, you
much
could bend
on
over.
it.
You could lay back, girl.
There's so much, and I've never had sex on it. And
what needs to happen is you need to get a train, and you need to just stay on there. And then you can lay on your back or get on your knees. Whatever you want.
You'll be at the party. Spread the word.
Bitch, I'll be next on the Chase Lounge. My turn!
Everybody just pulls their dick out. Surprise! Happy birthday! yeah, but I haven't. I've never haven't. But yes, absolutely. If you're gonna live with anybody, even by yourself, get really good furniture that you can have sex on, because when you do use it, it'll be worth it to do. That was another big investment that I made, was my bed. I made sure I spent a lot of money on my bed, and I got a good ass bed. But then, unfortunately, then I'll have like somebody over. I'll just have a rando over, and we have sex or whatever, and then they don't want to leave the bed because it's so comfortable. And I'm like, you gotta go. I don't want you here anymore.
Well, girl, looks like I need a fucking summer bed, a winter bed, and a sex bed.
And a rando bed.
Right.
Yeah, but you gotta have good furniture that you can use. But yeah, I don't really, again, it would have to be, it would take a really special someone for me to decide to move in with them. Because I like doing whatever I want to do. I like having that freedom to where I can have somebody at my house, whoever I want to have at my house at any time. And you can't, once I make that move with a person, like to, live together, I'm not going to have that same freedom anymore. Not because they're not going to accept it. Again, it would have to be somebody that would accept that I am this way. But because that's just rude to bring somebody else into their space also and stuff like that. But, you would have to offer me more happiness than I have by myself, and that's gonna be
right, bitch.
That's
I
a tall
love
order
by myself.
Right, that's a really tall order.
Nobody entertain me like I can entertain myself.
Right.
Bitch, I could stare at a wall and have a great time.
Exactly. It's like so you'd have to make it worthwhile. And so it's a strange concept. My friend Jazz, she thinks that I just haven't found the right person, which I guess she's kind of right, but there's also nothing wrong with me living my life the way that I do. If I choose to not climb the relationship elevator ever, there's nothing wrong with that. There shouldn't be anything wrong with that. But a lot of people, it's not really socially accepted anywhere. And then somebody had brought up polygamy recently, and that shit is disgusting. Polygamy is fucking disgusting. Granted, if you do have everybody in agreement or whatever, fine, but polygamy is rooted in misogyny. And so it's like, even if you're not treating all your wives like shit, the fact that you still call it polygamy means that you are.
Right.
And it's like, and then polygamists, which are men with multiple wives, polygamists, really look down on polyandry, which is a woman with multiple husbands. And it's like, so it's just really... Is that gonna be you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but can they be with whoever they want to be with? Or are they all yours?
Well, that depends. They'd all be mine.
Then I'll come home to you. You don't want them to be with other people?
Oh,
You
well,
would be in
they'd
the
stay
polyandry.
chained up in the basement. I'm just kidding. I got some chores for you boys to do.
This is his name's number 1. This is number 2.
Bunch of fucking gimps.
Yep. I'd love to have a bunch of gimps around. That would be amazing. I don't have a gimp. And I think about those different, again, I couldn't have my gimp and have my gimp be, I don't think I would want my gimp to be my nesting partner. I think I would want my gimp to be me and my nesting partner's gimp. They could live here, but they'd be GIMP full time.
24/7, 365.
Right, you'd be GIMP all the time. I mean, sure, you can take some, some reasonable breaks. It's not slave labor. You're here because you want to be. But, but for my nesting partner, that would have to be my daddy dynamic. And so, that's where that would sit. So, but I think about it, and it's like, that's why I can't be monogamous, because I want a daddy, but I also want a GIMP, too. So, what does that mean? What do I do with that information? I mean, you can't have it all. You can't have it all. Well, that's what they say. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Well, are GIMPs even considered human?
No. They don't even consider themselves human. That's the point.
They're an object for use.
Yeah, I definitely need to get a good solid GIMP. That needs to happen. But that'll come, and that'll come with, because with all of these things, as much as saying that, making that topic like, are they even human, blah, 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 blah. You have to have a solid relationship. You have to have a solid foundation with this person. It takes a lot of trust to get into those kinks with another person. At least it should, and, some people just think that they could skip that part and go straight into it, and it's like, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't.
Sure doesn't. You can end up in a very dangerous situation that way.
Right, exactly. You shouldn't just throw yourself at people like that. Not, I have that happen all the time, especially with, trying to kick off a findom career, which, one of these days I will. They'll just throw themselves at me, and it's like, and that makes me feel kind of bad for them, because... Right. It's like, we should have some type of level of trust. I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'll treat you like shit, but I'm not trying to disrespect you.
Well, it goes both ways. You could get into a situation with somebody you don't trust as a dom, quote unquote, and they actually end up, doing things that you don't want or don't like and don't consent to.
I feel like that happened to me recently.
And then there's also, the other side. You could end up with somebody that ends up claiming that they didn't want it, or,
Right, exactly. And so you gotta have that rapport with each other. Right, you gotta have you gotta have that level of trust in order to get into those things. And again, that's what people don't understand about being a dom or whatever. Like, you're not gonna fucking dom me the first time we have sex.
Right.
Like, the first time I have sex with anybody, it's neutral. And so, because you're just kind of figuring each other out and seeing how the vibe is. And, right. And then, and then after that, it's like, then maybe you talk about it, or maybe you still have, a couple more sessions of neutral sex, and, you're still learning. It takes a minute. It takes a minute to build that kind of relationship with somebody. And so it's like, I guess that's what I don't like about the one guy, is that he just kind of automatically jumped into it, assumed that he was going to be my dom, and I'm not. I'm not having it. That's not really what I want to do. But at some point in my life, I would like to have a serious enough, dom relationship where I get collared. I would like to be collared. And, and that's a lot. That's basically a marriage.
But how would that work with polyamory?
Well, actually, a lot of people that are in the kink community are into that. So some people even have a couple of collars. So it's like, they would allow you to...
But I mean, being the one that's collared, would it be okay for you to go outside of that situation?
If it's in your contract, yeah. And
well, that's what I'm saying, for you.
Yeah.
Or is that the point at which you would be like...
Or I would stop.
Okay, this is the relationship I'm monogamous in.
Well, and I could definitely, I could be collared, and I could be collared by my daddy, so that's something that I could put together. And, I could meld those two worlds, definitely, and be happy with that. But, I'm not totally against the idea of the possibilities of what could happen. I could end up in a monogamous relationship and still I'd be happy, I think, having other sexual relationships with people. Now, maybe the sexual relationships that I had with people would only be with my partner, but I think that if I was monogamous and I was told that I could not ever, their rule was that I could not sleep with anybody else ever for the whole rest of my life, I couldn't do that. That wouldn't work for me. So, but if you're collared, again, it kind of, then you can put that in your contract on,
right.
There's
agreements.
Right. And what you do. And so, yeah. So, that would make sense. I know a lot of people that do it, they will, before, say they have a nesting partner, but then they have another, they have two doms. And if they're collared by both of them, when they leave the one, he'll take the collar off, because that's a tradition. Well, he, she, whoever takes your collar on and off of you. And, so then they take it off of you, and then you go to your other dom, and they put their collar on you for the time that you're together. So, it just depends on the stipulations. But then they usually have, well, it just depends. Different dynamics are different. I think that's the important thing to understand about polyamory, is that because I can be polyamorous, and I can be with somebody that's monogamous, and they've chosen to be monogamous with me, but accepted the fact that I'm not monogamous with them, and that can still be a healthy relationship. And and I can be polyamorous, and even though I'm polyamorous, I can be in a monogamous relationship myself. I'm allowed. The thing about polyamory is that it is a blanket term, and there's other terms, there's triads, 3-person relationship where you're all three in a relationship together. There's things like that. But then there's toxic shit like unicorn hunting, which is different than a triad. And, there's a lot of terminology out there.
Yeah.
But
trans people are often referred to as unicorns.
Really? Why?
Because it's not common.
Oh, they're referred to, but they're not referred to as a unicorn in the
in polyamorous settings.
They usually are. Yeah. Well, and it's being a unicorn is a weird thing. The point of calling them a unicorn is that they don't exist. They're not real. So if you're a couple, you're just searching to have sex with somebody. You're not searching to have a real relationship with this person. They're the third. You guys have veto with each other. You could veto the third person out at any time. That's not really fair. It's really not. And, so if they're like, oh, we're looking for a girlfriend. Usually it's women. Usually they're looking for women. Oh, we're looking for a girlfriend, whatever. But you end up, if you come into the relationship as a unicorn, you don't have equal say in the relationship like they do. In a triad, you have multiple relationships. You've got person A, B, and C. You've got the relationship between A and B. You've got the relationship between B and C. You've got the relationship between A and C. And you've got the relationship between all of you.
But even then, sometimes there's not, my friend, she's in a quad. Mm-hmm. And so there's
two couples,
essentially. They're all a couple. I'm not the best with
that's okay
terminology. But
that's fair.
One's nesting partners, the other pair is nesting partners.
Right.
But there's also one person in nesting group A that dates somebody in nesting group B. Mm-hmm. And they also date the one in nesting group B dates the other one.
And nesting group A.
Right. So there's essentially...
There's multiple relationships happening between 4 people.
Right. There's 4 people having a relationship, and then 2 of those people are having a relationship. 2 of those people are having there's 4 different relationships inside of the relationship. And
right.
It's weird because it's plus they don't all date each other.
Okay.
So it's kind of like crisscross.
Yeah.
So
I understand
it's
that. They kind of swap.
Yeah.
Is kind of what that is. Yeah, right. But that's the point I'm making, is that there's so many different dynamics in polyamory. The only thing that you need to worry about is if every single person in the party, whatever it is, whoever is involved, consents. And that's it. That's really it. Even if you don't consider yourself polyamorous, I highly suggest a lot of people, I really like my poly Facebook groups and stuff, because these people are fucking relationship experts. These are the most fucking woke relationship expert, people in relationships that I've ever met. These people are so fucking wise. And, they absolutely do it right. And so, I tell everybody, I refer to the poly community, and, if you need a relationship advice, you go there, because they will tell you, it is all about, it's more of a general lifestyle than just a relationship, preference. It's, because you have to work on yourself, and it's always about, you can own yourself. You can't own anybody. You can't control other people, that's, you just can only account for your own actions. And, it's about taking, being accountable to those actions. And, that's something that I really, really admire, because, again, I feel like, they call it toxic monogamy. Toxic monogamy is bred because you don't have that accountability, and, you don't search within yourself, and, it's about, like, owning. And then at the same time, they talk about how you're not really entitled to anything. Nobody owes you anything, and that's a very interesting concept to me, because that is a very, for me, that's a very hard one to get over. And, it is hard, but it's like,
well, that comes with any relationship,
does,
though. Like,
yeah.
you have to have that understanding, like, yes, we are committed,
right.
but, it's like, if I don't get what I want
You're
out
not
of the
entitled to
relationship, I'm not entitled to it.
right.
You have to...
And so your accountability is that if you're not getting what you want out of the relationship, you can't force that person to change that you want something out of, but you can leave. And
right.
So, if you're not happy, you can walk away. And, that's where your accountability is in it. And so it's, it's a very interesting concept. But I preach accountability all the time in every aspect of life. I am all about it, because if we all held ourselves accountable, and we did better to try to hold other people accountable, we can't control what they do, however, we can still hold them accountable to what they've done or their wrongdoings or whatever, instead of just turning the other cheek and not doing anything about it. Then it would just, everything would be so much easier. The world would be a much better place if we all did that. But then again, I think that, accountability is just a very, that's the first step in, like, healing yourself, is owning what you've done wrong, or, looking at your flaws. And, I'm not saying anybody, you're going to turn out to be perfect, that there's, you're already perfectly you. There is no perfect. You're always going to work on yourself. But the first step in working on anything is looking at yourself and looking at your own issues and knowing what they are. And then that's your accountability. Saying that you're wrong, owning that and being like, fuck, I was wrong. What will I do differently next time to not be wrong? And so, or at least to not do what I just did or whatever. And, again, that I think that leads to a lot of, because people don't practice that's why we have the issues that we do in traditional monogamous relationships. That's why marriage fails. That's why, these things happen, is because people don't own their own shit. They just want to point fingers and blame everybody else for the problems. They don't want to work on what their problem is. And so, I don't know. That's just my my little...
Most people don't want to deal with their own bullshit.
Most people don't. And it's hard to find people that do. It is a very rare thing. And so, and it's hard. It's not like I don't... I try to be very aware of myself at all times, but I still fuck up. And, and I'm going to for the rest of my life, at some point. And in the moment, am I going to say that I'm wrong? Probably not in the moment, but I will later try to go back through and look at everything again and see, it just depends on the situation, depends on, what happened or what it is I'm trying to work through. But I try to at least evaluate everything later. Then again, I'm a Cancer, so I also overthink everything. So that's just in my nature. That's just me. But yeah, I'll try to go through and see if there was something that I could have done differently, or I could have. But most people don't do that. Most people don't do that. Most people just hold a grudge and continue to stew, and they let that build up, and then they build resentment, and that's not healthy. That's not. But that's what I try. Like, if I get into an argument with someone, which I don't very often, because again, I try to be very aware of the things that I do. But if I do, it does happen. If I do, later on when I go to think about it, like, one habit that I noticed I've changed is that I won't go back through, like, you know how, like, people, there's, like, memes and stuff, and you thought about it, like, how you, like, think of an argument later, and you're like, oh, I could have said that, or whatever, you know, to kind of spite the person. I don't really, I don't think that way. I don't have that sort of, you know, spitefulness. I just think about what I did say. I think about if I conveyed the message correctly, and maybe that's where the miscommunication came from, that's where the argument came from, and I try to think about how I could, and then I think about what they've said, and, you know, if what they said was correct, you know, if maybe they did have a point and I just wasn't listening because I was emotional, or whatever.
You just gotta process it.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, but most people don't do that. Like I said, they just continue to think, well, fuck them, I was right. You
Well,
know?
it's a lot easier too if you process things before you speak. You know, if you think about it. You know, but then that doesn't necessarily equate that there's not going to be any issue,
No, I'm
or
not good at that, no.
there doesn't need to be any kind of, you know, whatever.
Discussion or
right.
Or that. Well, like, if I get into an argument with anybody, it's typically in the moment. If I get into an argument with anybody, it's typically because they are doing something that they probably shouldn't be doing, and I call them out, you know, on their bullshit, and they don't like that. And so, you know, other than that, you know, I don't really, like, people don't usually come at me sideways because of something that I've done, but that's because I've grown, because I didn't used to be that way. I used to be very competitive, not competitive, but not even on the offense. I don't know. I just used to be a very angry person, and I'm impulsive, so I will just say something, you know, out of nowhere. But that's because I didn't do the work. So because I didn't work through my own issues, it was just a lot of my own, just pure emotion. And nowadays, it's not really like that. Usually, it's like, you know, the theme lately is calling people out for being racist, or, you know, just
like, I've already talked to you about this.
Right. I mean, being a domestic violence, you know, survivor and advocate, you know, it's like calling out men on their fucked up, you know, toxic ass shit if they do it, or calling out women on their fucked up toxic ass shit if they do it. I mean, you know, usually it's got to be pretty severe to get me worked up into an argument with somebody. So I'm not really like I'm not a loaded gun waiting to go off at any point in time, you know, so I'm pretty non-confrontational. Confrontational, I guess that was the word I was looking for earlier. I used to be a lot more confrontational. I used to like that. I used to want the drama. I used to want the problems, because that's what I was used to. So that's
I haven't ever. Girl, I hate arguing with people.
Yeah, right. I don't like drama. I'm not into it. So I don't keep bad company anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I try to be very careful.
Most people don't even know how to take that, though.
Right.
You know, it's like they kind of take it as you're being condescending, and it's like, no, I'm just literally trying to talk to you about it.
Right.
Like,
right.
Trying to understand, like, how you feel, where you're coming from.
Yeah, right.
So you can understand where I'm coming from and how I feel.
People don't know how to talk to each other. It's
right.
And so they're like, and that is what I do. I will talk to you about something. I won't argue with you. I will have a sit down conversation, and I want to hear your side, and I want to know, you know. But, you know, so I don't come at somebody just out of nowhere like, oh, you're always doing that thing that I hate, or, you know, I don't know, you know. But I'll try to I'll be that person that communicates, you know, correctly. I try to be mindful of good communication. But then it doesn't matter, even if you still try to be mindful of that, and even if you bring it up, that normal people, you know, the norm is to get defensive. You know, they automatically have that fight or flight sense. So then, you know, it gets heated, and it's hard because I, you know, usually when you tell somebody, like, you start talking to somebody about some issue that you're having, and you're like, okay, I'm not, you know, there's no reason to get upset. We just need to talk about this. Like, once you can bring them back down, but you still have to have those moments. And then if they just don't come down.
It's different with every person, too. So
depending on who it is. Well, right. Like I said, I usually don't keep bad company like that anyway. So usually I keep people around that I can talk to about stuff and can openly communicate with and stuff like that. So. Yeah.
Relationships are a little weird. You know, you have to be mindful of your boundaries and somebody else's boundaries, and the more people that are involved, the more complicated
It can get
gets.
complicated. It can.
So the more you're able to understand that, the more easily you can navigate your
Right.
relationships in a way that's healthy and productive. And most people aren't willing to figure out all the math that comes along with it.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
right.
And it doesn't take much. You just have to go through these experiences in the best way that you possibly know how, and be open and willing to listen, change, and be better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you do. I agree with that. So, I don't know. It is a, relationships are weird. Whatever works for everybody, and that's just, again, the most important thing about relationships is consent. The most important thing about getting into a kink with someone is consent.
Speaking of kinks, we didn't really talk a whole lot about
We
that.
didn't.
Maybe we need to do
a whole
other episode.
Yeah.
Sex and Relationships Part 2.
we can do a part 2. Part 2, mostly sex.
Right. All sex. Nothing but.
I'll update my boyfriend count then, and we'll see where I'm at. Maybe by then I'll find the Sky Dragon. But yeah, we could definitely talk about. Well, maybe we can get some people on. Maybe we could do some interviews with different people with different kink dynamics, and just see their perspective of it, or things like that. I think that would be kind of cool. We haven't done an interview yet on the show.
Yeah, we could
so.
literally just call somebody, put them on speaker.
Yeah, well,
If they can't
there's
make it.
ways we could do it. There's things we could do. We can make it work. But yeah, maybe we can do that. We know enough weirdos. I could think of probably 2 people off the top of my head that I could get, on the show. So maybe we'll do that. I think we'll probably do that. So I don't know. Any closing thoughts on I guess relationships at this point?
Not really. I mean, we pretty much.
This is a little less. It's a little out there with our realm of typical weird, and I recognize that. But I also have been working a lot to get this show out, so I really haven't had the time to do a bunch of research on anything else. And if I do, lately it's been about the Sky Dragons and the Boomy Boons. And so we'll get back on track. It's summer. We've been going strong for a while. And give you guys some more, I guess, ancient mysteries and weirdness. Maybe we'll cover another monster. We did Mothman. We haven't covered. I don't think we've. I think the last. Well, we've talked about mermaids and stuff, kind of, but maybe we'll pick something specific.
Bigfoot.
Maybe we can talk about Bigfoot.
It's like people that have a foot fetish. I should probably say this for the next episode, but Bigfoot got me there,
Well,
got me
leave 'em,
here,
yes.
and I'm gonna take you on this journey
Please,
with me.
yeah, please.
So people that have a foot fetish,
Yeah.
there's a thing called a foot pussy,
Okay.
and it's when you put your feet
Oh yeah,
together.
yeah. We
and
talked about
it's
this
that
last
hole.
week. Yeah.
Imagine Bigfoot's foot pussy.
Well, it's probably big.
Bigfoot pussy.
A Bigfoot pussy. Do you have a foot fetish? Have you ever thought about Bigfoot?
Right. Would you fuck Bigfoot pussy?
Send us an email. We'd like to talk to you. Maybe we'll interview you for the next sex and relationship.
Yeah, we need to call
Podcast.
Karen and have her find Bigfoot
Yes,
so
we
we
need to
can
get Karen, and we can
actually see a Bigfoot pussy.
we can look at that pussy and get a look at that pussy. Well, but there's a difference between a Bigfoot
Pussy
pussy
and-
and a Bigfoot pussy.
Right. Yep.
Guys, don't fuck animals, okay? Just don't do it. That's gross. I'm all about. I'm not here to
Who
kink
says
shame.
Bigfoot is an animal?
If Bigfoot's not an animal, we should save this for next time.
We'll save this for Bigfoot.
Yes, we'll talk about
But
this during the
Bigfoot
Bigfoot.
will be included.
We'll talk
in
it.
the
Maybe we'll do
sex one.
Bigfoot next week. I don't know, and then we'll do another sex after that. But yeah, we'll figure it out. We're open to topics and things. I've actually gotten a lot of people contact me about different things that they want me to research and stuff like that. So I'll probably start getting into those things a little bit. But for now, you guys only have one more episode until of the podcast. until my show is out. So you'll be plenty busy with between the podcast and the show. You'll have a lot of time to look at me and listen to me. So, all right, guys. Well, we will be back next Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.